Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Maryam. That is ScienceWali. I am a student at Rehan School from Khanewal Campus in level 1 and I am from Pakistan. I am 14 years old. I am belong to Multan. That's my little introduction and today we are again doing a special interview and today my special guest name is Erin English. And firstly, thank you so much for giving a precious time and joining us. And hi, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm so happy to be here. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. And I'm so proud of you as a student to reach out to different places to talk to people so that we can understand each other better. So I'm grateful.
You're welcome. And firstly, you can introduce yourself for my viewers and for me.
Okay. My name, as I mentioned, my name is Erin English, and I am recently retired after working for 32 years in the education system in San Diego, California. And I was a teacher. I was a third grade, a fourth grade, and a fifth grade teacher. Then I became a school principal where I worked at a head of a school for about 10 years. And then I worked at the main office, the district office, and I started working as a director and an executive director. And I ended my career as an executive director at the San Diego County Office of Education. And the County Office of Education oversees and supports all the schools in San Diego. So there's many schools that we were supporting, 42 different districts that we were supporting, and I was helping with that. And since my retirement, I have retired and started doing health retreats at my house. So I bring people here to help lessen the stress that they're under, and I help them with different stress reducing techniques. And throughout my career, before I retired, I went to school and became a doctor. I had a doctorate in leadership. So that's my background. I'm grateful to be here.
Okay, thank you so much for giving a introduction. And so my first question is, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced while working at the central office for schools?
So what I'm hearing is the question is, what are some of the challenges I faced when I was working at the San Diego County Office of Ed and other challenges I faced? Is that the question? Is that right? So the challenges I was facing is I was there for about a year and a half, and then our COVID hit. And so one of the big challenges we had is we had to we had to shut down all the schools. And so first of all, we shut down all the schools, and we had to turn around and teach teachers how to teach kids online, because a lot of our teachers in San Diego at the time were not using a lot of online learning. So we had to get on a computer with teachers who had never taught online, never used Zoom, or never used anything like your StreamYard that you're using now. And we had to teach all of the teachers, and we had to make sure the kids all had logons. So we had just 42,000 kids that we were working, trying to get these kids to be educated for the 2 years they were away from their classrooms. So that was one of our biggest challenges during that. And then also now we have that going on, trying to teach the teachers. And so I was helping my staff to teach teachers, but then we were also trying to figure out how to get the kids safely back into school. So we were doing all the COVID testing. We were actually personally, I was doing COVID testing at some of the schools before anyone else did COVID testing. We got a grant to pay for all these COVID tests so kids could come back to school safely. So that's those were some of the biggest challenges I faced when I was at the San Diego County Office of Ed. And I don't see you, Marianne. So what I'll do is I'll talk about a couple other challenges while you're getting back logged on. I'll talk. Oh, there you are. Hey there. You're back.
Okay, sorry, there's little net issue in Pakistan, and thank you so much for giving our answer. And my next question is, what advice would you give to inspiring educators who want to take on leadership roles in schools?
So I get the first part. You said, what advice can I give to educators? And what was the second part of that? Can you repeat the question?
Okay, what advice you give to inspiring educators who wanted to take on leadership roles in schools?
And they only wanted to take the what roles in schools? Oh, what? Oh,
Yes.
oh, oh, take on leadership role. Then you put the questions there. Thank you so much. Now this is great. Thank you. I think it's my end. I can't hear that. So what advice? Oh, I love working with educators. I love working, and I still do, even though I'm retired, I still work. I still do different workshops with teachers, and I'm always giving them advice on how they can improve their careers for themselves, but also how they can help their students better. Advice I give to teachers is I want them to look outside of their own classrooms to educate, to make sure that they're educating kids in the world that we're living in now, not in how we grew up. And so what I'm saying is that when I grew up, it was a lot different, a lot different than when you're growing up, Maryam. It's a lot different. So we have to make sure our teachers are current in their practices, and they're teaching students how to get through life in the world we're in now. So my advice is for teachers to always stay current, always look at things that are happening in the world. So when they're educating their students, the kids can be prepared to go out into that world. And the other thing is I want teachers to use hands-on learning. So what I always tell teachers, and the workshops I give now is I get teachers to teach kids so they're actually doing things with their hands, kind of like what you're doing here with this live stream conversation with me. Is you must have a teacher that has said, go out and do something like this, or someone who has inspired you. So what we need to have is more teachers like you have, more teachers that allow that flexibility and not just book, because sometimes the book learning is not enough, because sometimes the books are outdated by the time you're using those in the classroom. So we have to sometimes step away and give life experiences.
Okay, so my next question is, what inspired you to build a labyrinth and how is the process going?
Well, thank you. So I'll step back a little bit to that. I About 7 years ago, my house burned down where I live, and we live on 2 acres. I'm not quite sure the conversion of that is in in Pakistan, but we have enough land where we have a house, and then we have a very large yard. And when our house burned down, we were supported by our community. People came out, and it just really helped us. And my community was very, very important to me. So what I do is I'm building this labyrinth for me personally. It relaxes me to go outside, and I put the rocks down in the circles, and so I'm building it as I go. But what I also do is I bring mostly women who want to come down and relax. So I bring them over, and I walk in the elaborate space, and they sometimes will write little notes on the box in pen, so that it stays on the rocks. And then so when you walk around the little circles now, it has very inspiring sayings that are around the rocks. And if you ask me why I'm doing it, I think it's as a I'm going through cancer treatment right now, and I started the labyrinth right around the same time I got diagnosed as a healing project for me. So my goal is to have it finished by the time I'm done with my treatments, and that would be my. I hopefully it'll be done a lot sooner, but in September my treatments will be all finished. So I'm hoping that everything I'll have the labyrinth done way before then. So I'm hoping it'll be done by June, but that's my goal, and it's a place for relaxation, for gathering, for bringing people here who are like-minded, who just want to relax and just share community.
Okay, Erin, that's a good answer. So my next question is, what sparked your interest in rising beans?
Oh, okay. So I'm a beekeeper, and I have right now just one hive. And it's I have there's probably in the beehive there's about 64,000 bees, and it's a lot of bees. So what inspired me is that a couple of years ago, also probably about 5 years ago, we were in our yard and we noticed that the bees had started building a hive in a place that we couldn't let them stay there because we had to get into the spot where they're with our hands, and we couldn't let them stay there. So we had to move this little beehive somewhere. So my husband and I went to the store and we bought all the materials to have put them in a box. It's called a beehive. So we bought all the materials, we moved the bees over, and you know what? The bees flew away the next day. So we spent a lot of money and put the bees in the box, and they flew away. But the more, so I thought, you know what? We have this really nice box. I need to get some bees and raise them. I need to learn more about them. Why did they fly away? So the thing about bees is I'm constantly learning about them. It's not just a simple bug. It's a very complex, they're just complex creatures. They have they have pollinated our whole yard. So our whole yard is just filled with flowers. Our fruit on our tree is a lot bigger. The bees pollinate everything. And what inspires me is that in our world, we need to be more organically producing things. We need to organically produce food, and bees are a way to pollinate in an organic manner. It's a natural way to pollinate, and we need to take care of them because they help pollinate to make more food. And also, I now know that they're not endangered, but if we don't have them, we don't have our produce, and our food goes way down, and we don't get as much food. But I just think they're just absolutely fascinating. Anyone who wants to read a little bit about bees, they're all the bees. Most of the bees in the bee box are females, and they do have what's called drones, and the drones are the males. But the queen bee will make those males only once in a while. So it's the queen bee you have one queen bee in the whole 64,000, and she runs the whole show, and she tells all the other bees how to act. And it's just quite fascinating, Marianne. And thank you for asking that question. That's a really interesting hobby I have.
Okay, you're welcome. And my next question is, what inspired you to pursue a doctorate in education?
Oh, so I would say I was inspired to pursue my doctorate when I was about 10 years old. My aunt was going through her doctorate program. She was pursuing her doctorate, and I remember sitting on her bed. I remember this very, very clearly. I used to sit on her bed, and I used to count. She had a lot of data that was coming in to do her research, and I was helping her tabulate her data. So I was counting all the different things, and to me it was just fascinating. I thought, wow, and then she became a doctor. And I thought, you know what? My whole life, no matter what I was doing, I always thought I will become a doctor someday. So it took me a very, very, very long time. I didn't do it right out of school. I didn't do it. I was in when I was 50 years old. I said, "Well, I'm 50 years old. I want to have my doctorate by the time I'm 50." So I signed up for the program, the doctorate program, when I was 47, and I graduated with my doctorate when I was 50 because my goal was to have it by the time I was 50 years old. And I set goals. And one of the things that was one of my goals, I set the goal to become a doctor by the time I was 50. And the reason I did it, I got it in leadership is because that was the field I was in. And I learned a lot about being a principal of a school and leading people and not and doing it so that everyone follows you, because leaders have to have people follow them or they're not leaders. So I learned a lot about leadership in my doctorate program.
Okay, that's great. So my next question is, what are some of the biggest lessons you learned from beekeeping?
Oh, the biggest lessons I need to learn from beekeeping is never to take for granted that everything is okay, because the bees have a mind of their own. And you can't, like, as I mentioned earlier in the interview, is when I first moved that first group of bees and I put them in a really nice little box and I thought, oh, this is a great, they're going to love it here. It's perfect. Well, the bees have their own idea. So you can't predict, you're not in charge of the bees. The bees are in charge of themselves. So you have to get to know what their behavior is. You have to understand how they act without trying to impose your will on the bees. So you can't just go in and make decisions. You have to kind of get to know it, get to know your hive, and then do things from like that way. So when I get honey from my hives, and we do it in a very gentle way. We everything we save the bees. We don't kill anything when we're doing it, and we try to do it as gentle as possible so that they are not traumatized. So far we've been lucky, and we still have them. But the lessons is never take anything for granted, and don't assume you know everything, because the bees know more than we do.
Okay, so my next question is, how did your experience as an elementary school teacher shape your leadership as an assistant principal? Last question.
Oh, okay, perfect. How did your experience as an elementary school teacher shape your leadership as an assistant principal? That is an excellent question, because I, when I was a teacher, I I was frustrated. I was very frustrated with the leadership at the school. But I also knew that I couldn't do anything about it because I was a teacher in a classroom. But I was frustrated with some of the rules that they were making, some of the restrictions they put on me and also on my students. And sometimes I didn't understand why they were putting those restrictions on. So the leadership, what I went into being an assistant principal is because I wanted to make a positive change in kids' lives, but I also wanted to make a positive change in the other teachers' lives. So I wanted to get a step out of my classroom and not just help more kids, but I wanted to help more student teachers, so the teachers have more freedom to teach, so that they could be, their students can learn more. Because I think when teachers are happier and they are more content with their jobs, it comes out on the students, and then the students are more happy or happier. So that's what I want. That was my that was an excellent question, because that was what I left teaching for, is to make a bigger difference.
Okay, so my next question is, what has been the most fulfilling aspect of your retirement so far?
Is that my most fulfilling aspect of my retirement is that now I get to choose what I do with my time. And I'm not restricted by having to get to work. And I'm not, my value, my worth, my self-worth is not on my paycheck. So before it was you would have to work to get a paycheck. So right now I do a lot of consultancy jobs. I do, meaning people pay me to do extra things. Right now I put on workshops in the desert, which is about 2 hours away from my house. I bring teachers out to the desert for a weekend, and we learn about the desert. But I do that because for the love of what I do. I do it because I like working with teachers, and I could do this because I'm retired, and I could put a lot of time into it because I love what I do. And I also get to take painting classes. I do yoga. I work on my labyrinth that we mentioned earlier, and my time is not bound by and restricted by the confines of the the hours I had to work on my other job for somebody else. So now it's kind of turned around, and now I am my own boss of my life. Whereas before, because I had to work with a paycheck, I always had to get a paycheck. I had to work at somebody else's rules and regulations. And the other part of that is I have, and this is kind of it's going to sound mean, but I don't mean it to be mean, but when I was working, I was surrounded by a lot of people, a lot of people. We were constantly, yeah, thousands of people all the time. And I was surrounded by all these people, but not necessarily people I would ever want in my life if I wasn't working. Some of them were maybe not people I'd want to hang around with, or not people that had a good heart. So now that I'm retired, I choose the people I want to be with. And so I choose people that are kind. I choose people that are compassionate, and that they like to help the environment. They like to help other people. And so I get to choose who I'm with now. So those are my two big things is, that I get to choose things I do to working with teachers, but I also choose who gets to be around me.
Okay, that's great. So my next question is, what is one piece of wisdom you would like to pass on to future generation?
Oh man, and I could even talk to my younger self. So I would say one piece of wisdom I'd like to pass on to future generations is choose your friends wisely. Choose the people you spend time with. Make sure that they're good for your heart. Make sure that they are helping to build you up, and there's no competition, and that they are true decent people to you in front of you, but that when you're not with them, that they still talk positive about you and they build you up. And that's especially true for women. And I've seen a lot of women in my career who would be really friendly in front of you, but then they behind your back they'd say things, you find out later, they'd say things about you to try to make themselves be better or look better. So I would say, no matter how old you are, choose friends that make you feel good inside and that help build you up.
Okay, that's amazing. So, how do you balance your spiritual practice with your daily life?
Um, my spiritual practice is my daily life. So I'll explain that. Um, Everything to me, I wake up in the morning and I think of things to be grateful for. So that's how I start my day. I think about things, and I think of all the things so when I walk outside, I hear birds singing, I see flowers growing. And to me, that's all part of my gratitude, which is part of my spiritual practice. I was raised as a Catholic in a Catholic school for 8 years. I don't practice Catholicism anymore. I left that religion. I left organized. I don't practice in an organized religion anymore because I don't. The churches around me I have nothing against churches and people practicing in organized religion, but sometimes they become a place where they will exclude people. So people will be excluded from that church, or excluded because of their preferences, or excluded because of their beliefs, or their color, or their culture. And so I have found that a lot of churches where I live, they don't include everybody. So my spiritual practice is I'm always the person that's the most important person to me in the world is the person that's right in front of me at the time. My spiritual practice is to make sure that I am talking to people with my heart and not an agenda, not a hidden agenda, not to get something from them. And also to just walk the path of kindness. And so I want to make sure that if who I'm interacting with is a kind person, and if they are not, I help them find the path. And if not, I have to unfortunately not be around them. So I everything what I do is I subscribe to in myself is my I want to make sure my nervous system is calm, and I want to make sure I'm doing the right decision. I do a lot of reflecting, a lot of meditating to make decisions. And that's an excellent question, because I think to me, it's everything.
Okay, that's good. So my next question is, how do you see the role of bees in maintaining ecological balance?
Oh, the bees are, as I mentioned earlier, if we don't have bees, they don't pollinate, the plants don't produce. And if we, like right now in different parts of the world, and even in the United States, they are having to manually, like the farmers are having to go into plants, roll a Q-tip, and they have to go into the plants and manually doing the pollination, because there's a lot of plants now, they don't have enough bees that are pollinating these plants. So the plants are not getting, they're not bearing fruit. So it's, if we don't have bees, we can't possibly sustain it. We don't have enough people that are going to go around and manually pollinate plants. That doesn't make sense. So if we don't have bees, if we don't take care of bees and make sure that we don't use pesticides, if we keep using pesticides at the level we're using them in here, at least in the United States, we're going to kill off all our bees. And if we kill off all our bees, we also then completely change how we get food, because most plants requires pollination. So I think it's critical and it's urgent that we maintain our bee populations.
Okay, so my next question is, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
So this is a good question, because we're working on this right now. In the next 5 years, my grandchildren will be graduated from high school, because one of them is 15 and one of them 16. So they'll hopefully both be in a college or in a career path that they are choosing. And my husband and I want to travel, just travel the world. He'll be in 5 years. He'll be retired. He's not retired yet. And we are currently building a house. We bought land in Cambodia, and we are just starting to think about building on the land. And so we'll have a house in Cambodia, so we could travel to all the Asian countries from our house, because it's close to Laos and Taiwan and Vietnam. So we'll travel all those Asian areas from that house, and then we'll just travel around the world. This has been our plan for years and years and years, and we hope to keep that plan. To keep that plan active. That's our goal. There's so many places we want to see. I would love to see Pakistan. I would love to see different parts of the world that I haven't seen before, and we'll have more time to do that.
Okay, that's fantastic. So my next question is, if your professional journey were made into a movie, what would the title be?
Mm, okay, professional journey. Probably there's no straight path, and I'll explain that. Is I I did not take a straight path like a lot of people did. They became a teacher, and then they became an assistant principal, and then they became a principal. Is I did other things in between. I was a teacher, and then I got into technology at the time. Right around the time that I was a teacher, technology, computers just were introduced to the classrooms. So I love technology at the time. So what I did is then I became a technology director at a school. I helped build schools with technology. I had a niche that other people didn't have when I was advancing my career. So another bit of advice I would offer to people who are advancing their careers as a teacher or educator is look for something that distinguishes you and makes you a little different than everyone else. So my pathway was not straight. I didn't have a straight path. I did things that were different. I went into technology where no other teachers were doing that at the time. And then I turned around and started teaching teachers and installing teachers and building schools. And I have all that experience as I moved up into other leadership positions.
Okay, that's amazing. Amazing. And my next question is, if you could give one powerful message for my viewers, what would it be?
Well, I have a couple, and one of the first one is just to be kind to other people. Be kind, and if someone's watching your show, they're interested in learning about other cultures because that's what you're setting up here. You're bringing me in to talk to other people, and don't judge people because of where they live, the color of their skin, their culture, their religion. Just get to know people. Don't judge. Be kind, be compassionate, help each other out, be open to learning more. So this is another thing, is be open to always learn something. Don't ever assume that you get to an age where you say, oh, I'm done learning now. I'm 20, I'm done learning, or I'm 30, I'm done learning, I'm 40, I'm done learning. I'm 64, and if I learn things every single day, and I'm open to learning things, and I'm open to say, oh, I don't know that answer. I'll go look it up. I'll go research some more. And if someone corrects me and says what I don't know, if they tell me I'm wrong about something, I'll say thank you. If I learn, I mean, if it's correct information they're giving me, I'll say thank you. I had no idea. I didn't know that. So be kind, be open to learning, and just be open to other people and other cultures and other ways of life. That our life, the one we live, is not the only way to live. So it's really interesting what you're doing, Maryam, is to open the door to other cultures to see how other people live. And I think that's like amazing. That's wonderful.
Okay, your advice is very interesting and best. I hope we understand this advice and so viewers, that's my interview with a sweet and kind guest, Erin English, and I hope we can learn something new in this interview. And today time is 8:37 p.m. in Pakistani time, and date is 10th March 2025. Day is Monday, so I hope we can like this interview and nice to meet you. We can meet any other interview with a special guest and I can end this interview. Take care. Bye. Nice to meet you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for
Thank
being
you,
our
Maryam.
friend.
I'm glad it worked out. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome and nice to meet you.
Likewise.